Welcome. Today's lesson is going to be on addition and subtraction of fractions or rational numbers. Just remember, all fractions are rational numbers. But before we get into the actual fractions, I want to do a very quick review of adding and subtracting integers, in the sense of, if I have 4 plus 7, obviously we just add them together and we get 11. If I have 4 minus 7, again, I'm taking the difference. The difference is 3. The larger number is negative, so the answer or solution would be -3. But what happens if I have 4 minus a minus 7? Well, if I'm minus and a minus, that actually changes to plus, and I get 4 plus 7, and I go back to 11. And don't get confused if the 4 is negative. If I have a -4 plus 7, well, the larger number is positive, the smaller number is negative. 7 minus 4 is 3. If I have a -4 minus 7 more, don't get confused. We're minus and 4, minus and 7, 4 more, we get -11. And likewise, if I have -4 minus a minus 7, right? I put it in parentheses to help us see the minus. That's not a plus symbol, but it's minus and a minus. Again, we change it to plus. We have -4 plus 7. We get a +3. So make sure you remember your sign rules when you're adding and subtracting, and that will help very much. So let's begin on our addition and subtraction of actual fractions. First of all, when we add and subtract fractions, the very most important thing is that we have a common denominator. So hopefully they'll be nice to us and give us something like 9/10 plus 7/10, where the denominator is already the same. If the denominator is the same, remember the bottom is the denominator, so I'll be saying that quite often. The top is the numerator. So if the denominator or bottom is the same, I just add the top. 9 plus 7, that's going to be 16/10. Now, be sure to look at your final fraction and say, can it be reduced? And what do we mean by reduced? Well, it means that both the top and bottom have common factors. They both have a factor of 2. So in a sense, I'll divide by 2 on both top and bottom, and I get 8/5. Now, this is actually what we call an improper fraction, or a top-heavy. The top number is larger than the bottom number. It could actually be not simplified, but changed to a mixed number. We could write that as 1 3/5. But I'm going to tell you that either of these is correct. I would recommend you leave it as an improper fraction. You won't get marked wrong. Leave it as an improper fraction. It's one less step to do and one less mistake you could make. So I like the 8/5, the improper fractions, but if you want to convert it to 1 3/5, that is perfectly fine. Now, what happens if we have a fraction that doesn't have a common denominator? Let's have 1/4 plus 1/2. Well, if the denominators are not the same, we need to get them the same. So what we want to find is what we call the least common denominator, the LCD, least common denominator, which is the least common multiple as well. Sometimes they call that the least common multiple, or the LCM. Well, the least common multiple of 4 and 2 is 4. And so, because I can change this 2 to become like a 4 by multiplying by 2. But what I do to the bottom of the fraction, I must do to the top. So I times it by 2. And so now my addition problem becomes 1/4, its leading fraction, plus 2/4. Now I have the common denominator. I just add the numerators, 1 plus 2, that's 3/4. It's not even top heavy, so it's not an improper fraction. That's our final solution. Now, let's do some with some minus signs or some mixed number or some negatives. Like, wonder if I give you -3/4 minus 1/2. Now, again, watch your signs. They're both minus, so I still need to get a common denominator. So I'm still going to multiply this one by 2 on the bottom and by 2 on the top to get them a denominator of 4. So here's my first fraction. That's just this one. And then this one now becomes a 2 over 4. Now, they're both minus. So if I minus 3 and I minus 2 more, I get a negative 5/4. Now again, that's an improper fraction, but I love that answer. I would leave it just like that, but it is all right if you want to change it to -1 and 1/4. One thing about negative mixed numbers, make sure you realize that both of these, the fraction part and the whole number, are negative, even though I don't put a negative here, because when we get to some larger mixed numbers and we do change them to improper fractions, a lot of students will make a simple mistake. In fact, let's look at one really quickly. Let's say I give you -4 and 3/4, and I actually say I'm going to add a -4 and 1/2. Now, we can combine mixed numbers by combining the whole part and then combining the fraction. I would highly recommend you get in the habit of going to improper fractions. You're less likely to make a mistake. So I'm going to quickly do it both ways, and if you're comfortable with mixed numbers, great. Just you can follow me along. If you don't like mixed numbers, then I would just fast forward until I get to the improper fraction method, and then just watch the improper fraction method. If I'm going to do the mixed number method, I still need a common denominator on the fractional part. So I'm still going to take this and I'm going to multiply the bottom by 2 and the top by 2. So I'm not doing anything to the first mixed number here. Now, this is, by the way, a plus minus. I'm just going to change it to a minus if that's all right, because it's this. If I'm adding a negative, it's same as just subtracting the positive of it. So now I'm going to change this now's denominator. I'm going to multiply by 2 and 2, so it's going to become 2/4. Now I'm just going to add the two whole parts, -4 and the -4, since -4 minus 4 more is going to be a -8. And then I have a -3. Remember, this fraction is negative. It's a -3, and I'm minusing 2 more. I get a -5/4. Now, don't put a negative in here. This is already saying it's negative, the negative in front of the mixed number. That's where students start to mix up when there's negatives in mixed numbers. Now, there's a problem with this solution. I have a mixed number and an improper fraction. You notice how this fraction here is top-heavy. I can't have a top-heavy fraction with a mixed number. So what I got to do is I got to realize I got to pull or take one out of this 5/4 or a 4/4 and put it in here, or convert to an improper fraction completely. So I could write it as -9 and 1/4, because what I did is I took that 5/4 and I divided it into a 4/4 and a 1/4, right? Because 4 and 1 make 5, right? So this would be the mixed number version of it. Or I could just do 8 times 4 is 32, and 32 plus 5 is 37. So I could write it as 37/4. That's negative. Now, I want to emphasize what I just did. I ignored this negative out front when I found the improper version. I did 8 times 4 is 30. So I'm not even looking at the negative. Plus 5 is 37. Then I made it negative. A common mistake students make is they'll go 8 times 4 is -32, and they'll add a +5 and get -27, which would be incorrect. Don't accidentally think this 5 is positive. But again, just remember, do not leave your answer as a mixed number that has an improper fraction. Like I said, I would have preferred, I'm going to do now just the improper fraction version. I would prefer at the very get-go, ignore the minus sign, do 4 times 4 is 16, plus the 3 is 19/4, and you notice how I make the improper fraction before I even consider the negative symbol, and I make that minus. And then if you want to leave the plus symbol here, you can do that. I'm going to add another negative number. And what's the negative number I'm adding? Well, I'm going to go 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So now I got 9 halves. Now I have my two fractions to add, but they're not a common denominator. So now I'm going to multiply the bottom by 2 and the top by 2. So I get a -19/4 added to another -18/4. So 9 times 2 is 18. Now I'm adding two negatives, so it's going to be a larger negative. 19 plus 18, or a negative 19 plus a negative 18 is going to be a negative, of all things, 37/4, which is our answer up here. Now, if you get to this point and you want to go back to a mixed number, just go 37 divided by 4 is going to be 9, which is 36, right? 37 divided by 4, you just want to make sure you see how to do this, is going to be 9, which is 36, which leaves a remainder of 1. That remainder of 1 is the part of our fraction. That's the 1 over our 4. And again, don't forget, it's negative. Hopefully this makes sense. If you need to review it and rewind it, do so, and have a good day.